Sun-optimized skin. If you've ever powered through a gray winter, feeling tired and flat, there's a decent chance your body was quietly running low on vitamin D. And how quickly that happens depends on a gene called SLC24A5 that your ancestors sorted out roughly 5,000 years ago. Your skin makes vitamin D when sunlight hits it. Melanin, the pigment that makes skin darker, is an excellent natural sunscreen, but it also blocks the UV rays your body needs to produce vitamin D. In sun-drenched environments near the equator, that trade-off is worth it. Too much UV breaks, damages your cells, and raises skin cancer risk. But move far enough from the equator, where sunlight is weak and winters are long, and suddenly blocking UV becomes a problem. SLC24A5 is one of the main genes that controls how much melanin your skin produces, and lighter versions of it let more UV through, keeping vitamin D production running in conditions where the sun shows up for 4 hours max and immediately goes on a vacation. The light skin version of SLC24A5 is found in over 90% of Europeans and is virtually absent in sub-Saharan Africans, East Asians, and Indigenous Americans. And every person who carries it traces back to a single ancestor who lived somewhere between the Middle East and the Indian subcontinent 20,000 years ago. One person, one mutation, billions of descendants. That ancestor had absolutely no idea what they started. The catch runs both ways. The same lighter skin that handles gray winters well burns easily under strong sun and raises skin cancer risk in high UV environments. Optimized for Oslo. Disastrous in Lagos. Anti-HIV Shield. Some people carry a gene that makes their immune system dramatically better at fighting HIV. It works by flagging the core structure of the HIV virus for your immune cells to recognize immediately. That impressive gene is called HLA-B57, and it shows up more often in people of European ancestry. HLA genes are basically your immune system's threat identification department. They grab fragments inside an infected cell and hold them up for your immune cells to inspect, like a bouncer checking IDs at the door. Most HLA variants do this fine, but HLA-B57 is like a bouncer on Red Bull, which means your immune system kills the virus faster. This superpower is so impressive that people with HLA-B57 are called elite controllers. That's either the coolest medical title or proof that immunologists have a secret superhero registry. The wildest part is that some elite controllers have been living with HIV for decades, without medication and virtually undetectable virus. So if you have European roots, your immune system might already be playing a different game against HIV than most people's. But like any superpower, there's a catch. This variant triggers a severe reaction to abacavir, a common HIV medication. One prescription your doctor needs to know to skip. Turns out, your immune system might have been holding a cheat code the whole time. Liver cheat code. You get your routine blood test and are told your cholesterol numbers are great. Congratulations, you might be the lucky few who have a broken gene that keeps your bad cholesterol called LDL low, and it's all thanks to your ancestors. PCSK9 is a gene that normally tells your liver to destroy its own LDL receptors. Think of them like a door that allows bad cholesterol to leave your blood. More receptors means more doors for the cholesterol to leave out of. When PCSK9 breaks, the receptors survive longer, your liver clears LDL faster, and your cholesterol quietly stays low your entire life without you doing anything. Who knew you could have a superpower just because your body's bad at something? There are also different versions of broken PCSK9 genes depending on your ancestry. If your roots run through the African continent, your broken PCSK9 version tends to have the strongest LDL lowering effect. European ancestry comes with its own version, more modest, but still pointing in the same direction. Two different mutations, two different populations, same broken outcome. Turns out there are genes so fragile they can snap in different places and still land the same way. What's even cooler is that scientists studied these naturally low cholesterol people for years, figured out exactly which gene was broken, and then built an entire class of cholesterol drugs specifically designed to break PCSK9 on purpose. Billions of dollars in medications, reverse engineered from the superhumans who inherited broken DNA. The best drug discovery in recent history started with doctors asking, why is this person's liver broken, and why are they so healthy? Parasite Killer. Imagine being completely immune to one of the most feared diseases in human history, because your blood could dissolve the parasite on contact. That's what APOL1 does, and if your ancestry traces back to West Africa, there's a chance your blood is doing exactly that. Sleeping sickness is caused by a parasite called a trypanosome. Think of it as a microscopic invader that gets into your bloodstream and, if nothing stops it, eventually reaches your brain. A POL1 makes a protein that punches holes in these parasites and destroys them before they can replicate. Most people's version does this fine against common strains, but the parasite evolved a shield protein that made standard APOL1 completely useless. The G1 and G2 versions have a slightly different shape that gets around the shield entirely. The parasite spent thousands of years building a lock, and G1 and G2 are the keys it never accounted for. G1 is most common in Ghana and Nigeria. If that's where your family is from, more than 40% of your community may carry it. G2 runs higher in southern African populations, where up to 24% carry it. Wherever in sub-Saharan Africa your ancestry sits, there's a meaningful chance your ancestral blood has been running a precision operation this whole time. But with great power comes great trade-offs. For those carrying 2 copies of the G1 or G2 version, there is a much higher risk of chronic kidney disease. Sometimes your ancestors gave you a weapon so powerful that it hurts you long after the disease is gone. Detox Advantage. You take a pill following all the instructions and still feel like it's not quite working. Before you assume the medication is wrong, there's a chance your body is burning through it twice as fast as your doctor expected, thanks to a gene called CYP3A5. CYP3A5 is one of your liver's main drug processing enzymes. Think of it like a security line at an airport. Drugs come in, get checked, and are cleared out of your system. Some people's security line has 3 agents, a body scanner, and a dog. Others have one tired guy, waving everything through. Only about 10% of people with European ancestry are fast metabolizers, but that number jumps to 71% for people with African ancestry. The further your roots trace back to sub-Saharan Africa, the more likely your liver is running an ultra-efficient TSA check, and the more likely standard drug doses were calibrated for someone else's biology entirely. If you're running the fast one, the drug might be gone before it even has a chance to work. A clear example is tacrolimus, a drug given to organ transplant patients to stop rejection. Fast metabolizers need way higher doses to reach the same blood levels as slow metabolizers, and getting that wrong means the transplanted organ is underprotected. Good news though, doctors can now test which CYP3A5 version you have before giving you the medication. So instead of spending weeks figuring out why the drug isn't working, your doctor can just start with the right dose from day one. Next time a medication feels like it's doing nothing, your liver might just be eating it for breakfast and second breakfast, and your ancestry is probably why. Born to run. If you've ever watched Usain Bolt cross a finish line while everyone else looks like they're running through water, part of what you're seeing isn't just training, it's a gene called ACTN3 that determines what your fast twitch muscle fibers are made of. And depending on your version, your muscles were pre-assigned to either explosive power or endurance before you ever set foot in a gym. A CTN3 makes a structural protein that lives inside your fast twitch muscle fibers, the ones responsible for any movement that requires a sudden, explosive burst of power, like sprinting or jumping. People with the working version, called RR, have fully loaded fast twitch fibers that generate more explosive force. People with the broken version, called XX, produce none of this protein at all. That sounds like a disaster, until you realize that XX muscles compensate by becoming dramatically more efficient at sustained effort, less peak power, but they keep going longer before they fall apart. Elite endurance athletes show higher XX frequency in multiple studies. The broken version is actually overrepresented at the top of marathon podiums. Turns out empty fast twitch fibers are great if you never plan on stopping. The XX version is most common across Eurasian populations. If your ancestry runs through Europe, Central Asia, or East Asia, particularly from colder regions, where food was scarce and unpredictable, there's a higher chance your muscles were quietly built for the long haul rather than the sprint. The ancestors with the XX version were the ones who kept walking when everyone else stopped, and that's why you're here today. Malaria Proof. Imagine living somewhere a single mosquito bite could kill you. That's what malaria has been for billions of people over thousands of years, and some of them had a secret weapon their bodies built entirely by accident. G6PD normally protects red blood cells from damage. Think of it like rust slowly eating through metal. People with G6PD deficiency have weaker protection, which sounds like a problem until you understand what malaria actually does. The malaria parasite invades red blood cells and multiplies inside them, using the cell as a host. In G6PD deficient cells, that invasion triggers enough damage to destroy the cell entirely, taking the parasite down with it. Basically, your red blood cell self-destructs when occupied by unwanted guests. If your ancestry runs through sub-Saharan Africa, up to 25% of people in some regions carry this broken version, and the map of who has it lines up almost perfectly with where malaria has historically been deadliest. For anyone with Mediterranean roots, Greek, Turkish, Italian, or Kurdish Jewish ancestry, the numbers range from 2% all the way to 70%, depending on where your family is from. But the trade-off is real. Fava beans, certain anti-malarial drugs, and even some infections can trigger the same cell destruction the parasite experiences. Your body can't always tell the difference between a malaria parasite and a fava bean, which is as unfortunate as your Tesla confusing a full moon with yellow light and stopping spontaneously. That's just evolution running its usual complicated management style. Heart defender. You get your blood drawn again, and this time your HDL, the so-called good cholesterol, is unusually high. Your doctor nods approvingly. What neither of you might know is that the reason it's high isn't because your cholesterol system is working well. It's because a gene called CETP broke, and somehow that's the best thing that ever happened to your heart. CETP is a protein whose entire job is moving good cholesterol out of HDL and back into the bad pile. Think of it like a factory worker whose only task is undoing everyone else's work. When CETP stops working, HDL climbs, LDL drops, and your risk of a heart attack drops by about 30%. People with this broken version essentially got a free cardiovascular upgrade their doctor can't explain and their heart didn't have to earn. Studies of Ashkenazi Jewish centenarians kept finding the same broken CETP variants in people who lived well past 100. At some point, it stops being a coincidence and starts being a pattern. If your ancestry traces back to Europe or Ashkenazi Jewish communities, there's a reasonable chance your CETP is running below full capacity, and it's giving you superhuman heart health. Japanese and Chinese individuals carry their own versions too, though the heart protection seems less consistent, like the same broken factory producing slightly different results depending on your genetic ancestry. The one downside, the same HDL buildup that protects your heart can slowly accumulate behind your retina and raise your risk of vision loss over time. Your heart got the upgrade, your eyes got the fine print. Built-in drink limit. If you've ever watched a friend turn tomato red after one sip of beer while everyone else is completely fine, that could be a gene called ALDH2 doing something your liver actually benefits from in the long run. ALDH2 is an enzyme that breaks down acetaldehyde, the toxic byproduct your body produces when it processes alcohol. Most people clear it quickly and feel fine. People with the slow version clear it much more slowly, so acetaldehyde builds up fast, causing flushing, rapid heartbeat, and nausea after just one drink. The body is essentially staging an intervention every time someone opens a beer. Turns out your liver was looking out for you the whole time, it just chose a very public way to do it. This variant shows up in about 25% of East Asians overall, reaching almost 50% in Taiwanese populations, and is virtually absent in Europeans. And here's where it gets interesting. In a study with Japanese individuals, people carrying this slow version have a 4% reduction in mortality, no matter how much they actually drink. There's also lower stroke risk and blood pressure. A gene that makes alcohol deeply unpleasant turns out to be quietly extending lifespans. But there's also a downside. Those with the slow version who push through the flush and drink heavily anyway face significantly higher esophageal cancer risk. Your body built a warning system, and ignoring it has consequences. Sometimes you really should listen to your ancestors. Bitter by design. If you've spent your whole life being told to stop being dramatic about broccoli, dark chocolate, or anything remotely bitter, turns out your taste buds might have been doing something genuinely useful the whole time. A gene called TAS2R38 controls how intensely you taste bitterness, and the version that makes everything taste like disappointment is quietly doubling as an immune weapon. TAS2R38 makes bitter taste receptors, and they don't just live on your tongue. The same receptors line your sinuses and airways, where they detect chemical signals released by harmful bacteria. When they sense something dangerous, they trigger a burst of nitric oxide, a compound that kills bacteria on contact. People with the strong-tasting PAV version produce way more of this response than people with the weak-tasting AVI version. Your sinuses have been running a bacterial early warning system, and hating vegetables is just the side effect. About half the global population carry the PAV taster version. If your ancestry traces back to indigenous American communities, you're most likely to carry it, close to 70%. Europeans sit around 45%, which explains a lot why they'll eat raw broccoli for lunch and dinner. The PAV version is also frequently found in centenarians, people who live past 100. There might be a reason why the old grannies are always so grumpy, probably from tasting so much bitterness, even from chocolate. If you like this video and want to learn more about unique hidden advantages, check out these other videos.